Welcome back to the Football Terrace. Hit like buttons, subscribe, and I really need to gauge your opinions on this story because it is multifaceted. And this is a story that very regularly generates an opinion which I find to be quite binary, quite simple. And I really want to understand how you feel about this. I really do. So stick with us. Let us know what you think and feel. Now, the Times have reported that it is expected that Ineos's investment, so that is Sir Jim Ratcliffe, into Manchester United will complete during the international break, with sources believing that the announcement is likely to come at the end of the week or early next week. And we know that it's almost like, the worst kept secret around. We know that Sir Jim is coming in as a 25% owner, pending clearance from the Premier League, which takes 6 to 8 weeks. We know that Richard Arnold has stepped down, or in my opinion, been sacked from his role. Part of this process is Sir Jim being given control and power over the sporting or footballing element of the club, which means the likes of Richard Arnold and John Myrtle, Darren Fletcher's jobs are all at risk. The recruitment team's jobs are all at risk. There is still question marks over whether or not Sir Jim Ratcliffe and his team that he is bringing into the club, and we'll move on to that shortly, are going to be good enough and have the ability to take Man United back to the pinnacle. But what of the $1.3 billion that is coming into the football club? That has been a big question mark for a lot of Manchester United fans. And some people don't want the Glazers here in any capacity, so they're angry at Sir Jim for doing this deal and giving them and keeping them at the club. There are many that are angry that the Glazers didn't accept the bid from the Qataris to remove them completely from the football club. But we are where we are. And the biggest reason that we're here is because the fans, in my opinion, have not been willing to sacrifice to force out the Glazers. So we are where we are, and we have to assess this situation. And what do we see in this article here in the Times? And we also see James Ducker's view on this as well. And it is one that, for me personally, is very dissatisfying. The Glazers stand to pocket £650 million from the 1.3 billion coming in. So it's around 50% is going straight to the Glazers. Now we know and we've read that 100 to 200 million is going to be put in towards transfers and the salaries of players. So suddenly you're left there with what, 400 million, which is of course a lot of money to you and I, the working class. But when you look at how much work the stadium needs, the training facilities need, this is just a drop in the ocean. It truly, truly is. The Glazers stand to make over £500 million English pounds. And for any Americans watching that may not be aware, a billion here is 1,000 million, not 100 million. All right? Because some people get confused by that. £650 million. And it makes me sick. The differences between me, though, and a lot of the Man United fans are calling out Sir Jim for this. Sir Jim isn't the reason they're getting this money per se. Sir Jim, whether he becomes a success or not, wants the Glazers out the football club as well. But they will not accept an outright sale. Why won't they accept it? Because they know the fans are not going to walk away. They know the sponsors are going to keep walking in because of the amount of fans that we have. And there is more money to be made in the future, well, for the 75% sale of the club than there is right now. It's as simple and as straightforward as that. The Qataris didn't want to do any kind of part ownership, so they've walked away. So what's the two options? So Jim does this. They get 650 million now, and they'll probably walk away with another 6, 7, 8 billion in the future. But we get to slowly and maybe possibly make our club better. This, for me, is the best of a bad situation that we find ourselves in. And for anybody blaming Sir Jim for this, I look at you and say, what have you done? And I don't want to hear about hashtags or standing outside the stadium with a placard. What have you done that's tangible that could force the sale of this football club, that could force the Glazers out, that could lower the valuation of the football club so they accept 100% sale and we get better owners in sooner? And it's a genuine question to you. As angry as I am with the Glazers today for getting £650 million out of this deal for their own back pocket, this, by the way, with the 500 to 600 million they've already made off the football club, it's over £1 billion of profit so far, without them investing one penny. I'm absolutely offended to my core at them, but I am more angry with the fans for doing nothing, for pretending that we have no power, for moaning and tweeting and whining, but doing nothing tangible. I look at the plan, though, of Sir Jim, and I think to myself, look, bringing in Jean-Claude Blanc is a great move. This man has got a brilliant track record. Looking at the likes of Paul Mitchell, Michael Edwards, there's even talk of Doggy Freeman. And a lot of people are like, it's Palace, why this guy? He's got a very good track record in the industry. Man United fans have got to stop being so snobby. Just because it's Crystal Palace and it isn't Barcelona doesn't mean that he hasn't done a good job before. But I like the fact, and I like what Sir Jim and his team are trying to do. Where my skepticism remains is, does he really have full control? Does he have anonymity? Can he make decisions without reciprocity? Is he able to be the man that says, you're in, you're out, no to player power? We are not renewing the contract of a player who's selling stories to the media. I'm just giving you examples of things that have gone on at the football club. And it brings me back into another story that's circulating today, saying that Man United will not let 23-year-old Jadon Sancho leave for a reduced price in January. Now, I understand the logic behind this. I truly do. I understand the logic that you want to get as much money in for him as possible. As possible. But at the same time, the relationship appears to be toxic. This is going to damage the team that are playing, because they're going to be friends with Jadon. They're not going to want to see this going on. For us to turn around, this is Glazeronomics at its best. Because of the, and this is where it becomes self-fulfilling at Man United, because of the lack of quality culture, because of the toxicity which has been bred for a decade at this football club. Situations like Jadon Sancho and Erik ten Hag have happened far too regularly with other players and managers. But then what happens is perpetuated. The situation is engulfed by the owners who pour petrol, or gas as the Americans would say, all over it. And suddenly it's out of control. What you should do at this point is say, you know what, Jadon wants out. Let's just say he does here, because that's what we're reading. Let's just take the story as legit. Jadon wants out. The manager doesn't want him. We're only going to get 30 to 40 million for him. Let's cut our losses. Sometimes you've got to cut a part of yourself off to grow. Helps the player, helps the club. We get a bit of money back in, we go again. We reinvest for that. By the way, mistake not made by the current coaching team, the current recruitment, the current manager. A mistake is in a player that just hasn't worked. And I mean, no disrespect to Jadon Sancho. This is what I want to see change. When you hear a lot of Man United fans say Sir Jim Ratcliffe is just another Glazer, I've always sat on the fence with that opinion. Bringing in Jean-Claude Blanc, bringing in Paul Mitchell, removing the recruitment team, having an ideology to set everybody on the same path is not what the Glazers do. It's the complete opposite to them. If he gets the control and says, you know what, we just need to resolve the situation with Sancho, we're going to cut our losses, let him go and reinvest. He's not acting like a Glazer. If he eradicates player power, he's not acting like a Glazer. If over the course of time, he's looking to buy them out completely, reduce the debt on the football club, he's not a Glazer. If his reasoning for wanting control of the football element is because he wants to get Man United back to winning trophies as the most paramount, with the most paramount importance, then he's not a Glazer. Whether he's good enough and up for the task is a different conversation. But his intent is what's key. Because there are no perfect men, only perfect intentions. And that for me is what I'm focusing on here. We still need answers, and maybe we'll get this after the announcement of how much control he has. We still need to know how this 1.3 billion is being invested, and I want to know what the plan is to remove the Glazers completely. Because these people are the problem at this club. And now you can turn around and say, I don't like Sir Jim because he's given them an option to keep him at the club. This has been twisted. The Glazers didn't decide to reject the Qataris' bid because Sir Jim offered them an opportunity of 25% investment. Because Sir Jim also bid to own the club 100%, but it was rejected, as was the Qatari bid. This was a alternative approach to start the process of removing them. Now, as I've said all along, they were not my number one choice, Sir Jim Ratcliffe and Ineos. I am skeptical over this situation, but what I'm hearing they want to do is a positive step for this football club. What Manchester United fans need to do is, instead of trying to blame everybody else but themselves, look in the mirror and say, what did I do to allow this situation to ensue? As I said 12 months ago when it was announced, in and around this time, they were looking for investment and sales. That is when Man United fans should have come together, said, we are boycotting. We will not renew season tickets. We will stop buying shirts. We will boycott and destroy every sponsor online. We will stand outside the stadium for every game and stop fans coming in. We will go to the club hotels and stop the players from leaving. We'll get games called off until you sell 100%. That could have all been done. That could have all been done. And 99% of Man United fans, nationally and internationally, would have stood by you and said, yes. But what's been done? What have you done before you start blaming Sir Jim, blaming Ineos, blaming... Some people are blaming the Qataris. Oh, you didn't really want the... You didn't bid enough, did you? You didn't really want us. It's all nonsense. That's all just deflections away from what the hell did you do? And as I say, the Glazers were always going to take money out of this, always going to make a big profit out of us now. That's done. You can't put the toothpaste back in the bottle. They're making money. And everyone who... By the way, I am responsible, because from 2005 up until I cancelled everything in 2015, 2016, I was funding them. I am accountable. I feel ashamed. And still, when it comes to Sir Jim being here, if there's no set in stone plan to remove the Glazers that cannot be walked back, I still won't be giving them any money, because I still think we can force the Glazers out. And now that we have somebody potentially fighting on our side internally, it's an easier thing to do. But are we just going to sit back and let the Glazers rob us of even more money? Are we just going to sit back and let them leech off the football club? That lies with Man United fans only. You have the power, just like He-Man. You really do. Listen, people, look after yourselves. Take care. Goodbye. God bless. And I'll see you all again soon.